Every musician dreams of going out on top, but these 10 artists took that literally. Some collapsed from heart attacks, others were electrocuted, one was straight up murdered. These are the musicians who tragically died live on stage. Number 10. Dimebag Darrell. The El Rosa Villa nightclub in Columbus, Ohio was packed. Damage Plan, the new band formed by the Abbott brothers after Pantera's bitter breakup, was about to take the stage. Backstage, Dimebag and his brother Vinnie Paul performed their ritual. They high-fived and said Van Halen, their code word for letting it all hang out. And a minute and a half later, Vinnie recalled, "I'll never see him again." 90 seconds into the opening song, 25-year-old former Marine Nathan Gale rushed the stage and shot Dimebag multiple times in the head. The guitarist never saw it coming. Head of security Jeff Thompson tackled Gale, shot dead. Club employee Aaron Hawk tried to restrain him, shot dead. Fan Nathan Bray jumped on stage to help, shot dead. Police officer James Niggemeyer entered 3 minutes later with a shotgun and killed Gale. 4 people were dead. It was December 8, 2004, exactly 24 years after John Lennon's murder. Dimebag was buried in a Kiss casket with Eddie Van Halen's Bumblebee guitar inside. He was 38. Live music would never feel safe again. Number 9. Tiny Tim. Do not perform anymore. One more show could kill you. The doctors couldn't have been clearer. Herbert Buckingham Corey, known worldwide as Tiny Tim, had just collapsed on stage at a Massachusetts ukulele festival in October 1996. Heart attack. His body was failing. But Tiny Tim, famous for his 1968 hit Tiptoe Through the Tulips and distinctive falsetto voice, ignored them completely. As soon as he was released from the hospital, he resumed his concert schedule. By the 1990s, his star had faded, but he kept performing in small venues across America. He was a trooper. He had shows booked. He wasn't stopping. A fool in love with you. 2 months later, at a Minneapolis benefit concert, he performed his set and waved to the audience like always. His wife Sue asked, "Are you all right?" He said, "No, I'm not." Those were his last words. He collapsed immediately on stage. At 64, Tiny Tim died doing exactly what doctors begged him not to do. The ultimate showman until the very end. Number 8. Lee S. Harvey. Puddles of water covered the stage in Swansea, Wales. Nobody had cleaned them up, nobody had checked if the equipment was properly grounded, and nobody realized that 200 fans were about to witness something horrific. Scottish blues rock band Stone the Crows was setting up for what should have been a routine show on May 3, 1972. Guitarist Les Harvey stepped onto the wet stage during pre-show tuning. Standard procedure. He'd done this thousands of times. Then he reached out and grabbed the microphone. Electricity coursed through his body instantly. The water completed the circuit. Harvey was electrocuted in front of the entire audience, dead, before anyone could process what happened. Some thought it was a stunt at first, but the screaming from backstage made it clear. Les Harvey, just 27 years old, had been killed by the equipment meant to amplify his music. Stone the Crows never recovered. His death became a cautionary tale that changed industry safety standards forever. Number 7. Mikaben. Oh, j'étais de l'eau, oh, 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 fais la pluie. The Accor Arena in Paris erupted as Michael Benjamin, known as Mikaben, finished his final song. The Haitian compa-star had just delivered a powerful performance at the long-awaited Karimi reunion show on October 16, 2022. At 41, he was in his prime, beloved internationally, performing at the peak of his career. The crowd was on their feet. Everything was perfect. Then, right there on stage, Mikaben collapsed. He didn't stumble. He didn't clutch his chest. He just dropped, unconscious, hitting the stage floor. The music stopped. Thousands of fans stood frozen. Was this part of the show? Some kind of dramatic finale? It wasn't. Mikaben had suffered a sudden cardiac event. Medics rushed forward but couldn't save him. He was pronounced dead minutes later. The arena that moments before had been filled with celebration descended into shock and grief. At 41, showing no signs of illness, one of Haiti's most beloved artists died in seconds. One of the most shocking recent deaths in live music history. Number 6. Nick Menza. The Baked Potato was a small jazz club in Studio City, far from the stadium stages where Nick Menza had made his name. The legendary Megadeth drummer was playing jazz fusion now, 3 songs into his set with OHM on May 21, 2016. He'd helped create Rust in Peace, Countdown to Extinction, Euthanasia, Cryptic Writings, thrash metal's biggest albums. But at 51, this was his life now. Intimate clubs, different sounds, pure drumming without the metal world's pressures. Then Menza collapsed behind his drum kit. Patrons started CPR. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital. He was pronounced dead on arrival. Massive heart attack. Dave Mustaine tweeted at 4 a.m. "Tell me this isn't true." Years later, bassist David Ellefson said, "I feel like Nick died from a broken heart. His heart was broken from how things ended with Megadeth. That 1998 departure had been brutal. A hospital phone call while recovering from surgery. Your services are not needed anymore." He died far from stadium glory, but with drumsticks in his hands. Before we continue with number 5, I want to hear from you. Did you witness any of these tragic moments? Were you a fan of any of these artists? Drop a comment and let me know which story hit you the hardest. Also tell me where you're watching from. We've got viewers tuning in from Sao Paulo to Stockholm, from Tokyo to Texas. Number 5, Johnny Guitar Watson. The eccentric showman was in full form, playing live in Yokohama, Japan on May 17, 1996. Johnny Guitar Watson, the blues and funk pioneer who influenced generations of guitarists, was doing what he did best, delivering a flamboyant, energetic performance in his signature idiosyncratic style. At 61, he still had it. The energy, the showmanship, the guitar virtuosity that made him a legend.
That old saying is true, but I must be awful weak sometimes, baby.
Then, mid-performance, Watson's heart gave out. He collapsed on stage, a massive heart attack striking him down while he was playing at peak intensity. The audience watched in horror as the man who'd spent decades entertaining crowds around the world fell silent. Johnny Guitar Watson died doing exactly what he loved, performing with the same flamboyant energy he'd brought to stages for his entire career. He was a blues and funk innovator whose influence stretched far beyond his genre. His death in Japan, thousands of miles from home but on a stage where he belonged, was tragically fitting for a man who lived to perform. Number 4, Mark Sandman.
Getting to know me. She's almost tired.
Morphine was playing in Palestrina, Italy when their frontman and bassist suddenly stopped. Mark Sandman, the 46-year-old architect of the band's distinctive low-string bass sound, collapsed on stage during their July 3, 1999 performance. The internationally popular alternative rock band's music came to an abrupt halt as Sandman hit the floor. Massive heart attack.
I have been a glider high up here without a care.
He'd spent the previous 10 years building Morphine into an alternative rock powerhouse, developing his home studio High and Dry, and playing in various Boston area bands. His unique 2-string slide bass created a sound nobody else could replicate. Morphine wasn't just another alt-rock band. They were something genuinely original, and Sandman was the heart of it all. His death shocked the music world. The posthumous album, The Night, was released to massive critical acclaim. Cambridge, Massachusetts named a city block after him. The Mark Sandman Music Education Fund was established to help schoolchildren. Annual tribute concerts still celebrate his legacy. But for fans who witnessed that show in Italy, the image of Sandman collapsing mid-performance remains unforgettable. Number 3, Colonel Bruce Hampton.
Somewhere down in Hume, baby, won't you come with me?
"I'd prefer to die on stage if given the choice." Bruce Hampton had said this to friends and journalists throughout his career. On May 1st, 2017, the jam band and jazz fusion legend got his wish. The Fox Theater in Atlanta was hosting an all-star concert for Hampton's 70th birthday, the day after he'd actually turned 70. Legendary musicians filled the stage, celebrating a man who'd influenced countless artists.
Mom might never be. Let your Savior bless your soul right now. Hey!
During Turn On Your Love Light, Hampton collapsed mid-jam, while young guitarist Brandon Niederauer was performing a solo. The other musicians thought it was vintage Hampton, the eccentric showman paying tribute to the younger player with a humorous act. They kept playing. Hampton wasn't moving. He wasn't breathing. By the time they realized something was wrong, it was too late. Heart attack. Hampton had literally gotten what he'd wished for. He died on stage, surrounded by fellow musicians, during a celebration of his life's work on his 70th birthday. For a man who dedicated his entire existence to performing, there was a strange poetry to it. But for everyone who witnessed it, especially those who kept playing while he lay dying, the tragedy was devastating. Number 2. Sib Hashian. The Legends of Rock cruise was exactly what it sounded like. A nostalgia trip on the Caribbean seas with classic rock legends performing Boston hits, Foreigner classics, and Beach Boys tunes. For Sib Hashian, the original drummer on Boston's mega-selling first 2 albums, this was home. He was 67, performing alongside fellow ex-Boston member Barry Goudreau, doing what he loved for fans who'd grown up with More Than a Feeling. Then, mid-set aboard the MSC Divina on March 22, 2017, Hashian collapsed. Medics on the ship administered CPR and used a defibrillator. Nothing worked. Heart attack. The man who'd played on the biggest debut album in music history, that 1976 self-titled Boston record that sold 17 million copies in under 2 years, was dead. His daughter Lauren was dating Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who later called Hashian "my second dad." But that day on the cruise ship, surrounded by fellow rockers and fans who remembered the glory days, Sib Hashian died exactly where a drummer should, behind his kit, playing the songs that made him famous. The cruise continued. The other musicians performed tributes. The show, as they say, went on. Number 1. Miriam Makeba.
On the agenda is dancing.
They called her Mama Africa, and on November 9, 2008, the 76-year-old South African legend was performing in Castel Volturno, Italy. Miriam Makeba had spent decades as one of the world's most beloved voices, a Grammy winner who'd performed for presidents and world leaders. But more than that, she'd been an anti-apartheid activist who'd used her platform to fight injustice, even when it meant decades of exile from her homeland. She performed her hit song Pata Pata that night. The crowd loved it. This was her signature song, the one that had made her internationally famous. She finished the performance, and shortly after, Makeba suffered a massive heart attack. She was gone. At 76, Mama Africa died doing what she'd done her entire life, using music to connect with people across cultures and borders. She was one of the first African musicians to achieve massive worldwide popularity, paving the way for generations to follow. Her legacy extended far beyond music into civil rights and activism. But that night in Italy, thousands of miles from the South Africa she'd fought so hard for, Miriam Makeba's extraordinary life ended shortly after singing the song that defined her career, a legend until the very end.